The police found a lost child wandering near the edge of the park, his face streaked with tears and dirt. Officer Davis gently approached him, coaxing out his name and calming his fears. The boy, barely able to speak, managed to whisper his mother's name, leading the officers to a modest house on the outskirts of town. When the mother opened the door, her reaction was anything but relief. It revealed a heartbreaking truth. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Officer Davis walked through the park on his nightly rounds, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. It had been a quiet night, without so much as a disturbance. He spotted a small figure huddled near a bench, trembling. As he approached, he could see the small boy's tear-streaked face. "Hey there, buddy, are you lost?" he asked gently. The boy looked up, his teary eyes wide with fear and confusion. He didn't respond, just hugged his knees tighter to his chest. Officer Davis crouched down to the boy's level, offering a reassuring and comforting smile. "My name is Officer Davis. What's your name?" he coaxed softly. After a long pause, the boy whimpered and shook his head. He remained silent and didn't answer Davis's question. Davis's heart ached at the sound of the boy's frail whimper, and he felt determined to help him. "It's okay, kid. We're going to find your mom. Everything will be okay," he promised, glancing around the dark, empty park. The little boy clung to Officer Davis as he carried him and walked towards his patrol car. The night was eerily quiet. Every rustle of leaves and call of a nearby bird made them both jump. "Do you know where your house is, kiddo?" Davis asked, trying to keep the boy calm, even though his own nerves felt jittery. The boy shook his head again, his eyes filling with fresh tears. When they arrived at the station, Officer Davis and his partner, Officer Kelly, tried to gather more information from the boy. "Can you tell us your mom's name?" Kelly asked gently, after numerous unanswered questions had gone by. To their surprise, the boy nodded, whispering, "Jenna." The name was a small lead, but it was all they had. It was a start. A search for Jenna in the local database brought up several results, as they expected. It was a pretty common name. As they combed through the list of women named Jenna, the boy started to doze off in the chair. Davis covered him with a blanket, feeling another pang of protectiveness. "We'll find her," he muttered to the boy, as well as himself. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, they found a match. Jenna Thompson, living on the very outskirts of town. Davis felt a surge of relief. They had something to go on. "We've got an address," he told Kelly. They quickly made their way to Davis's patrol car, the boy soon fast asleep in the back seat. The drive was silent and tense, the roads dark and deserted. Neither Davis nor Kelly wanted to risk waking up the child asleep in the back seat. Davis couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about all of this. As they approached the ramshackle house, his grip tightened on the steering wheel. "This is it," Kelly said, pointing to the small, dimly lit home. After parking the car, Davis gently woke the boy, who rubbed his eyes and looked around in confusion. "We're here, buddy. Let's go see your mom," he said, lifting the boy into his arms. They walked up the narrow path to the front door, the house and its surroundings eerily silent. The entire atmosphere was off, like something was missing from it. Davis knocked on the aged door, and after a moment, it opened a crack. A woman peeked out, her eyes widening as she saw the boy in Davis's arms. "Tommy?" she gasped, opening the door wider. The woman looked haggard, with sunken eyes and messy hair. Her face held a mix of shock and something else, something that made Davis's stomach churn. It looked a lot like disappointment. The sobber was hard to hear. Her hands trembled as she clung to him, her gaze fixed on the doorway, as if expecting someone else to appear at any moment. Davis and Kelly stood quietly, their own unease growing with each passing second. Officer Davis cleared his throat and stepped forward. "Could we come in for a moment?" he asked gently. Jenna hesitated, her eyes shifting to the mess behind her. With a nod, she stepped aside, motioning them in. "Sure, come in," she said, her voice tight. Davis and Kelly exchanged a glance, stepping into the dimly lit, cluttered house. Jenna's tension was palpable as she closed the door behind them. As Davis and Kelly stepped inside, they were met with a chaotic scene. The living room was strewn with old newspapers and broken toys. Davis took in the clutter, sharing a concerned look with Kelly. Jenna nervously brushed a pile of clothes off a chair and motioned for them to sit. The house seemed frozen in time, each item hinting at a story left untold. Jenna moved to the small kitchen, her movements hurried. "Can I get you some coffee?" she asked, her voice strained. Davis and Kelly nodded, their senses still on high alert. Jenna's hands shook slightly as she searched for coffee mugs among the clutter. The sound of the coffee pot gurgling was the only noise in the tense silence as the two officers waited, their eyes roaming the room. Davis noticed dusty picture frames and scattered papers, feeling a growing discomfort. Davis and Kelly sat at Jenna's cluttered kitchen table, watching as she hurriedly cleared space. The table, once buried under a layer of disarray, now had just enough room for the coffee mugs. Jenna's anxiety was evident as she tried to make the space look presentable, her eyes darting nervously toward her son and the two officers. Tommy clung tightly to Davis's leg, his eyes wide and scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. Davis noticed the boy's unease and exchanged a worried glance with Kelly. The sight of Tommy's fear added to Davis's growing suspicions. Jenna placed steaming, chipped mugs of coffee in front of Davis and Kelly, her hands trembling slightly. She tried to offer a reassuring smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. As the officers accepted the mugs, the clinking of the porcelain seemed loud in the otherwise silent kitchen. Jenna took a deep breath, trying to steady herself as she prepared to explain the events that led to this tense moment. While sipping their coffee, Davis looked up from his mug and said, "Jenna, can you tell us what happened?" He watched as Jenna's face tightened, her eyes flicking nervously to Tommy. Kelly leaned forward, sensing the gravity of the situation. Jenna hesitated, her gaze shifting to Tommy before she began to speak. Her voice trembled as she said, "It all started a year ago at the farmer's market." She paused, tears welling in her eyes. The room grew even quieter as her story unfolded, each word heavy with emotion. Davis and Kelly listened intently, their concern growing with every detail Jenna revealed about the past year. Jenna took a shaky breath. "Tommy disappeared a year ago at the farmer's market," she began. "We were just browsing the stalls, and one minute he was right there, and the next he was gone." Her eyes welled up as she recalled the panic. "I searched everywhere, but..." She paused, struggling to continue. "I didn't know what to do. I thought he'd just wandered off and would come back." Davis's eyes widened in disbelief. "You didn't report him missing?" he asked, his voice rising. "How could you not call the police right away?" He leaned forward, trying to understand. Kelly nodded in agreement, waiting for Jenna's response. Jenna flushed with shame, her face reddening. I know, she stammered, nodding. "I should have reported him missing immediately. I was scared and didn't think clearly." She wiped at her eyes, her voice breaking. "I kept hoping he'd come back on his own. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do." Kelly frowned, her tone firm. "But why didn't you involve the police right away?" she pressed. "You must have known something was seriously wrong." Kelly's questions cut through the tension in the room. Jenna's eyes filled with fresh tears as she struggled to find an answer, her emotions visible as she tried to explain her choices. Jenna's voice quivered as she tried to respond. I didn't know what to say," she stuttered, her eyes brimming with tears. "I thought I could handle it, that it was my fault somehow. I didn't want anyone to think I was a bad mother." She clutched her hands together, tears streaming down her cheeks. Davis's gaze wandered around the cluttered living room, now taking in the details he'd missed earlier. The scattered toys were coated in a thick layer of dust, hinting at a lack of recent activity. The room's disarray suggested a life disrupted. As Davis examined the toys more closely, he noticed something odd. Several toys, clearly meant for a girl, were mixed in with Tommy's. A faded doll and a pink toy truck caught his eye. The mix of toys sparked a new line of thought. Davis glanced at Kelly, his expression serious. The presence of these toys suggested there might be another child involved, raising further questions about the situation. Jenna visibly relaxed as Davis's observation interrupted Kelly's pressing questions. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes darting between Davis and Kelly. It was clear that the shift in focus gave her a moment of respite, allowing her to regain a semblance of composure amid the tension and questions. Davis leaned over and quietly alerted Kelly about the girl's toys. There might be another child, he said, nodding toward the scattered toys. Kelly's eyes widened as she took in the new information. "We need to look into this," Davis continued, his tone urgent. Jenna hugged herself tightly, her tears falling freely. "My daughter, Madeline, she's missing too," she confessed, her voice breaking. Davis and Kelly exchanged a look of concern, realizing the gravity of the situation had just deepened further. Davis's tone was firm as he addressed Jenna. "Tell me more about your daughter, Madeline," he said, his concern evident. "When did she go missing?" Jenna looked up, her eyes brimming with tears, clearly distressed by the weight of the question. She took a shaky breath, struggling to find the words to explain her daughter's disappearance. Jenna's voice cracked as she spoke. "Madeline, she's been missing too." She looked at Davis and Kelly, her despair palpable. "I didn't know how to tell anyone. I thought I could handle it alone." Davis and Kelly exchanged a worried glance, their faces reflecting a mix of concern and determination. "We need to find both of these kids," Davis said, his voice steady. Kelly nodded in agreement, her expression resolute. They both understood the urgency now. Davis crouched down to Tommy's level. "We need to go to the police station now," he said gently. "It's going to be okay." Tommy looked up with wide, uncertain eyes, clutching Davis's hand. Davis gave him a reassuring smile, hoping to ease his anxiety as they prepared to leave for the station, where they could work on finding Madeline. Kelly spoke to Jenna with a firm but compassionate tone. "You need to come to the station with us," she said. "We need more information to help find your children." Jenna nodded, her expression a mix of relief and anxiety. She took a deep breath, preparing herself for the next step. The drive to the police station was marked by a heavy silence, the kind that makes every second feel longer. Davis's mind raced as he gripped the steering wheel, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He glanced at Jenna in the passenger seat, and then at Tommy, who sat quietly in the back. The urgency to resolve the case only added to the tension in the vehicle. Upon arriving at the station, Davis turned to Kelly. "Can you stay with Tommy and gather any information he might give us?" he asked, his voice urgent. Kelly nodded, taking Tommy's hand gently. "I'll do my best," she replied. As Davis and Jenna moved towards the interrogation room, Kelly led Tommy to a quieter corner, ready to listen and comfort him while they waited. Davis guided Jenna to a small interrogation room, his expression serious. "We need to talk about why you didn't report the children missing," he said, his tone firm but not unkind. Davis took a seat opposite her, determined to get clear answers. The room felt cold, mirroring the tension of their conversation. Jenna wiped her tears away, taking a deep breath before she began to speak. "I've had bad experiences with the police before," she said, her voice trembling. "I felt like they didn't listen to me." She struggled to maintain her composure, but the weight of her emotions was evident. Davis watched her, listening closely as she tried to explain her actions and their unfortunate consequences. Jenna's voice quivered as she explained, "I've had past encounters with the police where I felt unheard." Davis listened intently, trying to understand her perspective. Despite his skepticism, he knew their focus needed to be on finding Madeline. Davis remained skeptical about Jenna's claims, but knew he had to stay focused. "We need to find Madeline," he said firmly. The urgency in his voice left no room for distractions, as he prepared to coordinate with the team to start looking for Jenna's missing daughter. Jenna tearfully described how Madeline had never stopped searching for her missing brother, Tommy, showing her deep devotion. Davis, sensing the urgency, asked when Madeline had disappeared and immediately called for police assistance to begin a search. Jenna, overwhelmed with emotion, revealed that Madeline had been missing for 2 weeks, but hadn't known how to come forward. Realizing the challenge posed by the delay, Davis urgently instructed the officer to gather all details from Jenna and launch the search right away. Frustrated by the lack of leads, Davis searched the database for information on Jenna, but found nothing. Realizing he'd need to rely on Tommy and Jenna for answers, he then joined Tommy and Kelly, watching the boy play with clay, an innocent moment that contrasted sharply with the growing tension of the investigation. Kelly, concerned and frustrated, shared that Tommy had only said he was with a man he didn't know. Davis, troubled by the lack of detail, asked Kelly to check on Jenna while he spoke directly with Tommy, hoping to learn more. Davis gently questioned Tommy about the man, trying to coax useful information. When he asked Kelly if Tommy had said anything else, she confirmed there were no new details, only vague mentions of an unknown man. Feeling the pressure of limited clues, Davis sat beside Tommy with crayons and paper, asking again about the man. Tommy replied vaguely, describing him only as big and wearing a funny hat, leaving Davis frustrated and still searching for a better way to uncover more. Davis changed tactics and gently asked Tommy if he knew where Madeline was. Tommy suggested she might be with their dad, a surprising and potentially vital lead. Realizing the importance, Davis quickly paged Kelly to investigate the father's role in the case. While Tommy focused on his coloring, Davis asked about where he had been staying, but Tommy only mentioned a big house, offering no clear detail. Trying again, Davis reintroduced Madeline's name, and Tommy repeated she might be with their dad, confirming the need to pursue this lead. Davis, now convinced of the father's relevance, contacted Kelly urgently. Together, they confronted Jenna, who reluctantly revealed she hadn't reported the children missing out of fear. She described their father as influential and dangerous, explaining her silence. As tension mounted, officers prepared to raid the father's home. Davis and Kelly watched as the team geared up and moved out. Inside the house, they finally found Madeline, safe but shaken. It became clear the father had taken the children in a misguided attempt to reconnect. Jenna reunited with her children in an emotional moment. As she embraced Tommy and Madeline, Davis and Kelly looked on, relieved but deeply aware that the trauma and consequences of the events would not fade quickly. Thank you for watching. If you like this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscription, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming stories.